Welcome to the Jets UK podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andres Groves. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, David Wyatt-Hupton. David, how are you feeling today after that disappointing loss in week 3?
Tired. I'm not just tired of the Jets, but last night I was tired of football. That's the extent the Jets pushed me to last night.
Yeah.
I said in the newsletter today, I have a routine on a Sunday. The Jets are usually in the early slot. I watch that, and then I write the newsletter while watching one of the late games. Someone I'm interested in, Justin Herbert, or someone I like watching play.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, as soon as that Jets game was over, I switched that off. I was like, I'm not watching any more football tonight. I'm going to watch some classic Seinfeld. I'm going to watch an episode of Sopranos, and I'm going to worry about the newsletter and the New York Jets tomorrow morning. And that's what I did. And do you know what? I had a really lovely evening. That was really nice.
I wish I did the same, to be honest. I was working at night shift. I had the game on on the side there, and I kept the games going. I put Red Zone on after the Jets, and then I also watched the overnight game, which was a
Those
very
late games kind of sucked as well.
those were that
Like we
Sunday
caught up
night
this
game.
morning.
That Sunday night game,
Was
I
that
mean, was
is that
absolutely
Broncos
dreadful.
49ers?
Yeah,
Is that
especially if you have Russell Wilson in 3 of your 4 fantasy leagues. That's not going to
Especially
help.
if you were playing your co-host in one of those fantasy leagues and he beat you.
Yes, David. Yes, you beat me because Russell Wilson doesn't decide to show up. Yes, so well done on that one. The game's already
My
finished.
kicker got more than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's all done. It is what it is. But yeah, it was disappointing, really disappointing from the Jets. And I think you're coming off a win, and we talked about it before the game. I said, the Jets of old. This was going around a little bit. I think everyone was kind of mentally preparing themselves. But the Jets of old come in and stink it up. And you said, yeah, they come in and had a 15-point plus loss, and it was actually 15 on the dot. So, my God.
Should have put a bet on that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, oh, goodness. It was just classic. It was same old Jets, right? I mean, it's like you just want to escape that narrative, but it was classic same old Jets. It was. There was some really positive moments that we're going to highlight and show optimism going forward, because there was some good stuff from individuals there, but overall, the way they just didn't show up on both sides of the ball, on the offense and defense, the specials did okay, but the coaching was worrisome. Just overall, it was just a complete no-show for the second home game in a row, and it's just not good enough, really. It really isn't good enough. So where do we start, David? Where do you want to start with the discussion?
Oh, we could start anywhere. I want to end on the positives, so let's just get rid of the.
Let's start with the
kind of-
probably most negative and the most obvious one, and one that we can actually also look forward to moving on from. That's Joe Flacco's performance, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's
other
a
than a bit
combination
of
Joe Flacco's static performance, his statuesque
yeah,
performance at the back, and our offensive line and our coaching. It's kind of like a trifecta
yeah,
because I don't think. I mean, Joe Flacco, when the All 22 comes out and those clips start hitting, you will see how many times he
hmm
missed the actual open receiver.
yeah.
He tries to force it in, like you were saying, tries to force it into Braxton. Corey's wide open. Tries to force it into Garrett. Elijah's wide open.
And the one he tried to go with Elijah, the one he went on the right side where the Wouzier broke it up. I've even just on the highlight clips that I watched this morning, Garrett's looking. I need to look at the All 22 to see where the deep safety was, but it looked like Garrett's streaking down the middle, wide open, and he's just he predestined the throw that was going to go to Elijah on the back shoulder, and he could have gone right down the middle to Garrett Wilson, wide open. And at that point, it was 7-3, and we would have gone up 10-7 or 9-7 at the time. So it's like these are crucial moments in the game where it really changed the dynamic of the game if you just have competent QB play, and he just hasn't been that overall. Even last week's performance, we had the magic at the end, but it wasn't fantastic overall. Obviously, week 1 was he was atrocious in week 1, and he was the same again. So, thankfully, I mean, the only silver lining is that, now everyone's put everything to bed, and now we can all really focus on getting Zach back in and look forward to that. And there's no kind of a little faction of people going, oh, maybe we should stay with Flacco. It's like everyone's like, no, we're done with Flacco. Let's move on to Wilson, and that's another thing, and we'll get onto that later. But
the frustrating thing about Flacco is that as a veteran quarterback,
yeah.
He's not going to wow you with his athleticism. He's not going to do, he hasn't got the cannon arm anymore. He hasn't got these little aspects, but you expect him to make the right read most of the time.
Hit the open
because
man.
He's been in the league
right?
for so long.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what you expect to get with Joe Flacco.
Hmm.
And we've seen the last 2 weeks. We saw a lot last week with Elijah Moore. I mean, Elijah Moore's absolutely invisible to Joe Flacco, and I'm not sure why. And the only time he is visible is when we're calling stupid plays for him. I mean, why are we throwing boundary throws to a 5-something receiver against one of the better cornerbacks in kind of the AFC. That's not Elijah Moore's game, and that's on Mike LaFleur. Why is he running that pattern?
Hmm.
And I was saying to you beforehand, Garrett was out, but if we need that boundary receiver, and I know people up and down on Denzel Mims, but if you want a guy to just run a go route and then just go up and get the ball, I'd rather you just throw Denzel Mims out there. Don't put Elijah in that position because 9 times out of 10 he's probably not going to be successful there. You
Yeah.
need to get him over the middle of the field where he uses his yard after the catch, where he uses his route running, where he can shake free. Because the Jets it's complete malpractice right now how the Jets are using Elijah Moore, and it's sad because I think there are a lot of questions coming off from the coaching staff. 4th and 1, Connor McDermott in at left tackle. 4th and 1. Why are you spreading it out wide and letting Trey Hendrickson have a free run at Flacco? I mean, why are you doing that? Just leave someone in to protect him. Leave Michael Carter in there. Michael Carter actually did a really good job last week chipping on his way through. Just leave someone in to do it. Don't spread
Yeah.
them wide with Connor Bloody McDermott at left tackle.
I mean, it's an absolutely dead. It's a deadly combo of McDermott at left tackle on the blind side of Flacco, who even on the front side where he doesn't even have he doesn't even have an awareness on the front side, as we saw last week when when Clowney came in and got the strip sack. Never mind on the blind side, the guy he just has no awareness, and you would think, well, that's another thing that a vet would have, is at least a little bit of like, pressure awareness and this many years of experience of like being able to sense some sort of pressure that's coming, especially knowing that they're having success on the day. Like, he's got no awareness, and Conor McDermott cannot hold up against, especially against anybody, and never mind a really good pass rusher in Trey Hendrickson. So,
All
absolute.
you've got to do with Flacco is breathe on him, and that ball comes out.
I mean, it's just
I think every time he got hit, the ball comes out.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's it's so strange that as a veteran quarterback, he can't just at least feel it a little bit and just tuck it away.
yeah,
And I know he's getting hit, and I know he's getting hit quickly. I mean, Trey Hendrickson on that 4th and 1 was on him, and I think I looked at it this morning. It was like 2.4 seconds. It was something stupid, which again points to the coaching staff not doing their job, which is to give Connor. It's not Connor McDermott. It's not Connor McDermott's fault that he's not very good. He's not playing to be bad. He's just
mm,
playing at his potential. And he's been a backup for a reason. He's not a starting tackle in the NFL. That's not necessarily his fault. He has to go in and try and do the best job he can. But the Jets coaching staff needs to realise their personnel and realise, do you know what? He needs some help. So we're going to leave someone in. I mean, they made so many little errors like that. And that's the concerning point with all of this.
yeah,
I mean, is Fant okay? Has he been okay at all this season? Because he looked like an absolute turnstile as well. And he would not put pressure on that knee. So it
yeah,
sounds as though he's actually been injured all season. He
yeah.
doesn't practice fully through the week. And then he comes up on Sunday and puts in a bad performance. So, questions got to be asked about why he's been out there. If really is injured again, and it's the same knee apparently, if he really is injured, he shouldn't have been out there because he obviously wasn't healthy. If he can't practice fully all week and then he goes out and he can't perform, so he can't put pressure on it, we shouldn't have had him out there.
No.
That's just the base of it. I know we're short at tackle, but you just can't play an injured player. It's just not fair to the player.
You just got to you got to start bringing in other names at tackle, because Conor McDermott can't play. So even if you bring a guy off the street and give him a go, it's not going to get worse than McDermott. I mean, I couldn't, literally, if you just put a mannequin there, it would be the same almost as Conor McDermott. Like, no offense to the guy, but the thing is, he's proven just to be absolutely shocking. I mean, Joe Blewett, who obviously was just going off like, a friend of the show. He calls him like the worst NFL player he's ever seen in terms of like what, for what he has to do for his particular position. So,
But
like,
how many times do we need to see it? Like
I,
Conor McDermott's,
I
it's not
don't
like it's
know.
his first year or even his second year. He's
No.
been around the Jets for a long time.
And it's not like you got potential, like you want to grow it. Like, he is who he is now at this point. Just get a guy off the street, and he's going to maybe do even if he does 10% better, that's just going to be an upgrade.
I would
Honestly,
rather than play
yeah,
Grant Hermans
yeah,
because I don't know what we've got in Grant Hermans. I have no idea.
exactly,
He could be absolutely awful, but
yeah,
I know that Conor McDermott's awful. So
yeah.
just play the
But
unknown at
there's
this point
guys
and
out on
give
the
him
street,
help.
David. There's guys out on the street that we know are names who who have played and done okay, if not spectacular, out there, who could just stick there and get something from, I don't know. There is
I
this
don't think the
talented
Jets want to
guys.
put any more money in it.
No, they
They
don't
have
want to put
spent the
more money.
most
They've
money
spent
on
more money.
offensive
Yes,
line as any other team in the NFL. So they're just going to
absolutely.
roll with it. But the danger is that Zach comes back. If he keeps getting hit, if he keeps taking the hits, then you're putting him out there to get hurt.
Absolutely. I mean, at some point, there is definitely a case that they've been had horrible luck. Obviously, Mackay gets the injury on his return. Okay, they took a risk on that, but I think it was worth taking with the people that we brought in, especially who we took at 4, and we'll talk about him later on. Then you go, okay, we're going to bring in, Fant is going to play. He's been injured, but you come in. He had a good season last year. Then you say, okay, we're going to bring Dwayne Brown in. Dwayne Brown, even though he's old, he's been durable. If not, he hasn't been spectacular on the field, but he's been durable, and he gets injured. How much money you need to keep putting into it. They've had bad luck, but at some point you also have to start thinking, like, if we just bring in a cheap free agent from the street and does a little bit better, that's going to be better, because at this point it's dangerous for it's malpractice to put Zach behind that line, even if he's able to escape, more than Flacco would. You're putting him in danger by putting him behind that line, So I don't know what they need to do. They just, at the very least, they need to do scheming, help for McDermott, whether it be
That's the whole point, isn't it?
tight end blocking, chipping from from the running backs, something just to give him a little bit of help, and Zach can then know, okay, pressure's going to come from the left. I know that's the case, and just get the ball out of his hands, have a quick game going, keep things moving, so they can't keep on keying on like kind of long downs, that 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12. These are the things that just don't help, So they need to scheme help, and that's Mike LaFleur needs to do that. He was completely stagnant yesterday. I don't know what the play call was about. It seemed to be low percentage throws mixed in with kind of very simple runs. There was nothing creative from the game plan to try and help out with the situation with Flacco. I don't know if he's out of ideas with Flacco and he's just waiting to kind of give that all to Zach. I don't know at this point, but it was not encouraging from him. And obviously, you go to the other coaching staff, and we'll transition as this is kind of coaching. I think Mike LaFleur obviously has done a lot of good things, so there's still a lot of potential, positivity there. But
he is being let down by his quarterback, because as we pointed out, there were players getting open.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Flacco was just missing the obvious target.
Yeah, so while you would want a bit more from Mike LaFleur, there was also less blame on him, particularly with the people he was working with. Now, you look on the other side of the field, Ulbrich. I don't know whose decision it was to play single high in the first half so much. I was on the Bengals Who Dey UK podcast kind of live stream before, and one of their guys, Andrew, was pointing out. He says, "Oh, I see you guys play single high. I hope you play that." I'm saying, "Well, he goes, we've been struggling with too high safety." I say, "Well, hopefully they introduce a bit of that, but I do feel they're going to stick to what they like, because they like that exactly what happened, and they got carved up in the second half, and then in the first half, and in the second half they only let up 7 points because they went into too high safety. They made it a bit more difficult. It's like, what are you doing? Zero blitzing, Burrow. His percent, his stats on zero blitzing is not what you want to be doing. I don't understand Ulbrich, what he's doing. Absolutely clueless sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the most frustrating thing is, even we on the preview pod said play too high safety. That's what Dallas did, and they couldn't actually have an answer to it, especially when you've got a cornerback locking up Chase. So the too high safety just gives you a better opportunity to keep Higgins and Boyd in check.
Yeah.
Jets decided, do you know what? Dallas did it. It worked. We're not going to do that. We're going to stick to that one kind of high cover one kind of. We're going to do a zero blitz, which they haven't done all season. Like, that's the first time they've sent 7-man all season, and they didn't do it again because obviously Quinnen Williams and Aaron Whitecott got into a bit of a Barney on the
absolutely
sideline. Which I understand, because the stats actually back it up. But the Jets' pass rush in general is not getting home. And I didn't see a lot of stunts. I didn't see a lot of twists. Again, exactly what worked with Dallas. I need to watch it again because I've only watched it once. I wasn't going to go and watch it again last night.
Don't blame you.
I don't hate myself that much. And so I'll watch it again. But I didn't see they say the NFL is the copycat league, and it is to an extent. You can't do exactly the same because you don't have the same personnel, but you can take elements of a game plan that works and incorporate it into your own. And Jeff Ulbrich, I just don't know what he's doing. Obviously, the players weren't aware of that. All-out blitz, kind of, they weren't into it. Yeah, there's miscommunication every single week. Every single week so far, we've had a touchdown against us because of a miscommunication. This week, apparently, it was Joyner, I think it was, that made the mistake. Sauce was supposed to have Chase if he broke outside. Joyner was supposed to take him and switch on him if he broke inside. He broke inside. Joyner bailed to the middle of... I don't know where he was going. Like he was late for a taxi or something. He was running down the...
I don't know what's happening. Yeah, honestly, Joyner is an absolute disaster. And we called it. Like I said, we all called it. You listen to any podcast or YouTube stream or anything in the Jets community, we all called it. We're all talking about how we all called it right now. And we don't want to be right. We want to be proved wrong. But unfortunately, we all said that it was going to be a problem, a potential problem, and then they just ignored it. They thought that would be enough. There was so many different options you could have done to improve the position. And
And Whitehead's not helping either. I
I
mean,
mean,
Whitehead's been pretty poor
Whitehead's,
as well. I mean, that
yeah.
tackle, was
I
it on
mean,
Boyd? I think it was on Boyd, wasn't it? I mean,
I,
tackle is
I,
putting it lightly because it was a
I
showreel
sent you
attempt,
the video of him hyping
which
up the DBs beforehand and talking about wrapping up. He actually said, "Let's wrap up." It's honestly a bit of a joke. You see those kind of pre-game hype videos when you watch it after a bad loss. When you don't, we don't come across the video until after the game, and you see it, and you're like, "This is just utter bullshit." It's like honestly, it just nothing infuriates you as much as that, really, when they just completely no show. But the thing is, you talk about everything we talked about just now in terms of the coaching, the players. Everyone seems so unprepared for it, and this is the classic Jets of not being prepared. They're coming off a win. Victory Monday, right? And this is something I've been banging on about for the last 12, 18 hours. They had this Victory Monday. Okay, so they get Monday off, they get Tuesday off, they come back on Wednesday. Hey, this team isn't good enough to afford Victory Mondays. Simple as that. Like right now, until you can string together some wins and actually legitimately earn a Victory Monday, one victory that you have miraculously, that's never going to happen again, in the chances of zero, it was like 0.001% chance of winning the game. We pulled out the win. Great. Let's celebrate that. But you've got to get back in. You've got to get back in and work out, because a lot went wrong last week, and it was almost like it just kind of like coated over everything that went wrong, and they just came in with unprepared. Everything was unprepared, undisciplined. JFM's stupid penalty, Corey Davis stupid
again. We have
penalty.
those so often as well. Under Salah, we have had those so
But
often.
it's under everything, David. We've had it for so many. This is classic. This is the same old Jets thing again, where you get a stupid penalty that keeps the drive alive for the team, and then they go on and score very soon after that. They don't get 3, they get 7 points. When that happened, I was like, yeah, we're losing this game by 2 touchdowns plus, because I've seen the story. I've seen everything line up this way, and that's how it ends. Because it's just almost the epitome of how when it comes to the talent on the team is pretty good. I think there's a lot of talent on the team, but when it comes to these small differences, when you face these teams like the Bengals, who are a team that are very talented, you can't afford these stupid little mistakes. They're already going to beat you. They're already going to make you strain, and as they say, strain. They're already going to put pressure on you to be at your best. If you're doing stupid things like that, then that's just going to completely just give them advantage and keep things going. And that's just the biggest difference. So you just can't afford it. We just don't have the ability to do that. And most teams don't. And that's why the good teams are not just good, they're also very disciplined as well. So Victory Mondays, let's earn them, please. Let's earn them first before we start celebrating, have 2 days off, come back on Wednesday, rush everything. It was just so unprepared. Everything was unprepared. It just seemed like we didn't really know how to tackle. We were just like, yeah, we'll do what we want against this lot. We'll just run what we normally run, and we'll do it at a high level. You're not doing it at a high level, because the line, which is this, is supposed to be the key to this defense. The defensive line is not getting home, right, with 4. They did better after the Quinnen blow up thing, but the thing is, it's not dominant enough. And the reason, when you look at it, the biggest problem I have with it is just the they don't actually the containing of the QB, which almost every QB you face now in the NFL is not going to be. Joe Flacco is a standout example of someone who just completely stands there. Most QBs now are people who are enlisted as the starting QB for NFL teams, are going to have some ability, right? Which we saw with Jacoby Brissett, not amazing, but has some ability. And if you allow him, he'll get out. And we did the same again with Burrow. There's no discipline to keep the edges in. Like Quinnen and the other guys in the interior are pressing in middle. Let them do that. The edge guys, why are you cutting in and all stuffing into the middle and then allowing them to escape? He escaped like 3 or 4 times, and one of those times was that first touchdown to Pirine. It's like, come on, like you've got to have some sort of like idea of what you're doing in the pass rush plan to work together as a tandem and not as individuals just trying to desperately get to the QB. It seems to be like, we've got to get to him as individuals, but right, what are the other 3 guys on the line doing as a tandem to work together as a unit to swallow up the QB and not allow him to have any success, moving in the pocket or getting outside? There's just none of that at all.
Yeah, there's no creativity in terms of the pass rush kind of arsenal either. There's a lot of ball rushing going on, and a lot of tackles like a bit of a ball rush because they're usually built to cope with it. Um, I don't know why Bryce Huff wasn't. I know I'm not staking the season on Bryce Huff, but if there ever was a game to get him involved, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Jacob Martin is doing nothing. He's a liability against the run. He's not getting to the quarterback, consistently in terms of pressure. And Give Huff a chance.
Yeah, it's time for
Lawson
Huff.
looks
It's time
troubled.
for Huff.
You know,
Yeah.
Lawson doesn't look the same as he did against the Bengals and in the Jets preseason. He's still working his way back. I'm just going to give him a few more weeks,
Yeah.
but I think it's acceptable to start thinking, do you know what? Is he ever going to get back to that point?
And it may
That's
not
a
be his
question.
fault. It may just be the Achilles, like we talked about.
Yeah, it's a
It's
hard
just
injury.
it's
It's
the
a
most
tough injury.
difficult injury. We talk about it. It's very much about running backs. Potentially when we always talk about fantasy football, and we look at that. But every position, when you need the explosiveness, that Achilles, they say you never get that fully back. The Achilles is never you never get fully back to where you were after that injury as it currently stands. And
All we'll
that's
say is Salah. I think is safe for next year. I think it would have to. We'd have to not win another game all season for it to come into question.
yeah,
But something's going to change if it carries on like this, and we win 4, 5, 6 games again. Something's going to change, and that will be Jeff Ulbrich.
yeah.
Ulbrich will be the first one on the chopping
Absolutely.
block, and I
Absolutely. Yeah.
understand that.
I think that's the case. I mean, the funny thing is, I was watching the Green Bean stream with Frankie from Flatbush, which is a really good fun stream. They have a really good conversation. They do it on Thursdays. Big shout out to them. And Frankie was making the point that basically Ulbrich is Salah in terms of like the defense that we're running is Salah's defense, and Ulbrich is obviously kind of one in terms of like liking to implement that as well. So it's like if you get rid of you don't like the defense. You're kind of getting rid of. You have to almost pull the root out from pulling the hair out from the root, which is obviously what we don't want to do because there's other parts of Salah that we do actually like about what he's doing. I think that there's obviously the one name that I've seen floating about, which people have said about, is to bring in like a Vic Fangio. So maybe not him, but like an experienced defensive guy who's got his own style of defense and will not just take Robert Salah's complete word for it and actually bring in someone who's actually experienced who can actually say I'm going to do this a certain way. And then that's a natural place for maybe improvement there. But I mean Ulbrich has to improve because like I said he can't just keep doing. You can't just keep on running the same thing and being stubborn. This coaching staff is way more stubborn than I was prepared. Like when they speak, they seem to be quite open, but you soon discover that actually they're very stubborn and set in their ways. And obviously we started that with the Denzel Mims situation last year, which because it ended up being kind of true because Denzel just didn't work out in it, even himself when he got a chance. It kind of validated their stubbornness there. But you're seeing more of these problems, including the Denzel situation this year now, and what we talked about earlier, and all the other things where they're like, "Oh no, this is the way we do it." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not working, so you've got to change it." Like, no, this is the way we.
That's the big issue. The
Yeah,
biggest issue with this coaching staff is inflexibility. And
yeah,
I'm not necessarily talking on the offensive side of the ball. I'm talking strictly on the defensive side of the ball.
yes.
And I think yesterday highlighted that more than anything because of who was on the other side. And the Bengals defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo,
yeah,
he flips up his defensive game plan on a week-to-week basis to play. And I know they're 0-2, but they were very unlucky to be 0-2, and they're not an 0-2 team. They're much better than that.
No.
And you looked at what he ran yesterday. He ran a variety of things to confuse Flacco, and it worked. Look at Logan Wilson. He ran a Tampa 2. He ran an old-school Tampa 2 with the linebacker dropping into the middle of the field, and it worked. An absolute treat. Flacco tried to force it into there. You'd expect him to recognise that defense, talking about errors where he was at his best, and he didn't. But Jeff Ulbrich, Robert Saleh, I don't know who's calling. It will be Robert Saleh calling the shots, you surely think. But I don't know how much Jeff Ulbrich plays into it. They have to be flexible. They have to change this up. And DJ Reed after the game said, listen, we need to get in there. Not just players. I'm not talking about a players only meeting. I'm talking about a players and coaches meeting. We need to get in there. We need to sort this out because it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. If you're stubborn, you're inflexible, and you can't communicate, you're going to have a very long season. And that's exactly what the Jets are going to have if they don't improve. They're going to have a very long season. And we haven't even played Buffalo yet. We haven't even played Miami yet. We have got some really big powerhouse offenses on our schedule left. And if we play like that, they are going to absolutely tear us apart. Imagine what, I never thought I'd say this, imagine what Tua with Waddle and Hill would do to this defense.
I mean, even Aaron Rodgers and the Denver Broncos with Russell Wilson, who are both struggling respectively to where you expect them, they'll still have a great day against us currently. The way we're going, they have to change it up. They have to. They got to look at it and say you can't be, out of 2 weeks DVOA ranking we were 32nd again after 2 weeks. I'm sure that's not going to change after we're going to be down there again.
Hello?
If not. Still exactly 32nd. We can't continue to be the bottom team. There's too much. We brought in Sauce, we brought in Reed, we brought in Whitehead. We brought in Carl Lawson's return that we didn't see him last year. We brought in JJ. We brought in Clemens. We brought in Jacob Martin. We brought in Quan Alexander. That's a lot of talent
Andres, you
That's
there?
a lot of talent that's been brought in, and you got to get off the basement of the rankings, and it comes down to stubbornness, and it's almost Gasian. Yeah, so I think that the last kind of point I want to make is kind of just the notion we've been talking about is like the Jets kind of seeming like are they are playing a different sport to the rest of the league, and I'd say the one thing I've seen is that I think is a bit extreme to say that. I think what's happening is that the Jets are just not showing up on both sides of the ball when they play badly. Like there's a lot of other offenses that I think are worse than the Jets are. Like that are like that Sunday night game, for example. My God, that was some terrible offensive play from both sides. But guess what? Both those teams have really good defenses, the Broncos and the 49ers. So like it's kind of like we don't have either. Right now, when they play badly, we have neither. Last week, it was the offense played really well, even the defensive played really bad. So that is what it is. It is unfortunate, but they need the talent's there. They just need to get out of their own way, these bloody coaches, and get things sorted out, get out of your own way, and get things ready, and get a game plan ready for Pittsburgh and take them on, because they're a beatable opponent, and we cannot go. We've got much more difficult opponents after this game. No offense to Pittsburgh, but they are beatable compared to some of the other teams we've got lined up. So we've got to go for it, right, David?
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah,
think that's probably one of the more frustrating things is that we have the talent. So unlike previous years where we just didn't have any talent on the roster and you're kind of expecting to turn up and get rolled over, this year we actually have talent. And that's probably a good segue into the positive section of the podcast,
absolutely.
because there is positives, and I think we need to keep the context. The Bengals are a very good team. With their 1-2, the Jets are 1-2. You know, we are only with one game behind Buffalo, and so there is positives to this whole conundrum. If we can get it all sorted, the issue is there's a lot of things to sort. It's not just one thing. Not just getting Zach back. Zach's not going to help us avoid the miscommunication and defensive backs. He's not going to help us get to the quarterback. He's not going to he'll help us a little bit protecting himself, but he can't do it all.
No,
But the real positive is we've got corners, and that's key in this league. So if we want to flip to some positivity from yesterday, there's two players that kind of stood out in terms of stats and in terms of performance. One of them's Max Mitchell, which is great. I'm actually really happy with how he's performed. I think he gave up one pressure in 56 pass rush snaps.
yeah,
That's fantastic. So he improved from week 1 to week 2. He made a big jump from week 2 to week 3, and now it's just about stabilizing that performance over the rest of the season. So that's a positive.
absolutely,
And then the other one, obviously, is Sauce Gardner,
of
who
course, yeah.
got in the head of. I mean, Chase finished with 29 yards, and he was largely on Sauce, not
Yeah,
all the time,
he was
but
following,
largely
but
on Sauce.
Sauce was
Sauce
traveling.
followed him most of the time,
They are sending Sauce to travel to take out the best time, and
which they should,
they
which they
should,
absolutely should.
and that is commendable by the coaching staff that they're not going. Rookie needs to be confined. No, they're like go do it, and it's
Go
good
do
that
your
they're
thing.
seeing it. But
That's why you're fourth overall pick.
yeah,
Like that's why you're there. And he gave up one completion, which was actually he had safety help over the top, which didn't get there in time. Got there like a second too late and
it
delivered a
was
15-yard penalty for
yeah,
us.
that was a helmet to helmet
Um,
from Joyner, wasn't it?
and
Yeah,
a great play by Higgins as well. Higgins, it wasn't
yeah.
like he got burned. Sauce didn't get burned
No,
by
he
Higgins.
was
Higgins
right
just
on
made a good
him.
play.
It was
It was
sticky
right on his
coverage.
hip.
It was sticky coverage from him. No pun intended with being Sauce, but yeah, I mean, he was all over Higgins, and Higgins just made a great play. And we talked about that, going into the game. We talked about it specifically with Chase, but I mean, Higgins is a fantastic
I mean, he made
receiver as
that
well.
great PBU on Chase down the sideline, didn't he?
Yeah,
That one
yeah,
near in the end zone.
exactly.
That was a
So
fantastic
we
play.
said about him just going toe for toe and have a bit of back and forth, but he was more than kind of living up to the battle, and it's just gonna be fascinating to see how he does against different wide receivers as we face them, especially. He's got a good set of wide receivers to face this week against Pittsburgh. Obviously, we've got Waddle and Hill the week after that. So it doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier, and but it's gonna be fascinating to see how this guy does well, because he's just looking just so special at this point. And we've got to have expectations set at a level, but he's going past them. Like we're trying to set low expectations or lower expectations, but he's going past them at this point. So it's very, very exciting to see. I think obviously kicker was good. I know you love your kickers.
Love
Zerline got the four field goals, so did his
2 from
job.
50 plus as well.
Yeah. So that's sneakily, potentially, hopefully, we say this and then we commend someone and then they go and miss 2 field goals and an extra point in the next game. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and he kind of of gets back into the form, because in previous years, in his career, he has been one of the better kickers in certain parts of his career. If we can get somewhat consistent play from the kicker, and not making these, you're not going to make all these longer ones, but if just make all the ones that are makeable, and all the extra points, then that's all we can really ask. I see Matt Amendola missed a few for KC, just another another name from the past. So but yeah, well done to Zerline for that, for doing that. So yeah, there is positives, but when you're listing a kicker as your positive, it shows you how bad a game was.
I just saw a stat that the Jets now have the most drops in the NFL by receivers as
Wow.
well. So
That doesn't surprise me as well. But I think also it's one of those ones where, I think Joe's ball placement, as much as, maybe people made a comment about Garrett saying he throws a cute, friendly ball, and it was in training camp, and they kind of use that as a way to ding Zach, that, Zach doesn't. I mean, Flacco's ball placement has not been good. I mean, he put Garrett out to drop. It was a hospital pass to Garrett. He did one to also to Corey as well. He was behind for Elijah on one of them. He was behind Breece Hall on another one on the third downs. It's just, Flacco can't do that. And when he gets out of the pocket, it's impossible. He has no ability. Like, there was one time when he had to escape to the left, and he ended up trying to throw one into the end zone. It just kind of went lame duck about 5 yards from the receiver, and you're like, yeah, dude, like that. Zach will fire it. Zach will fire that in. He's got the ability to do that, to turn his hips, to get that ball, fire it in. That's what you're going to get with Zach. And like I said, you're not going to solve all the problems with Zach. And we can't I think this is where we should transition. Obviously, we're going to talk about Zach and his return. Hopefully, it'll be confirmed by the time we do the preview podcast later in the week. But, on the idea that, the news that he is looking good, and it looks like, barring any big issue, he will return. Zach is going to just give you that just a little bit more when the line doesn't quite work, or things don't quite work out. He has the ability to take off with it, to get a first down with his legs. Joe just can't do that. If anything goes wrong, the play is dead like 95% of the time with Joe. That the play is gone completely. So Zach's going to keep things alive and keep things moving, and hopefully, he's got to find those receivers that are open. He's got to do a better job than Joe. If he can do that and also keep things alive when they don't go well, and keep the ball and keep the chains moving, then that's just going to be It's going to be really productive. I think and he has the potential to really impress. But it's now time. We have to rely on him, right? It's now time for us to say, okay, Zach, now's your time. You're the second overall pick. It's not the ideal situation, but you've now got to put some weight. You got to carry some of this weight. As much as we want to make it as easy for Zach, it's now time for him to just take the weight that's there and carry us a little bit into some wins as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the season, we need to know exactly what we've got with Zach. And if he can come back this week, we'll find out pretty quickly. We'll find out if MLF has been kind of keeping the offense back a little bit while we wait for Zach. Maybe he feels a bit more comfortable doing some RPOs and, little bits and pieces that you just can't do with Joe Flacco, because, I think he's still in the pocket. I think he's still there. I think he's probably sitting in Meadowlands waiting for the Giants-Cowboys game. He hasn't quite made it out of the pocket yet, because, he just looks like... He just looks like an old dad.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
Conversation when you have an old person like, "Oh, in high school I was so and so."
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's not his fault. He's 37 years old. I mean, he's not supposed to be playing at this point.
And he's never been mobile, right?
He's never been a mobile quarterback. He's certainly not going to get more mobile as he gets older.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to having Zach back though. I mean, let's see what this team actually can be with the designed quarterback in there.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it's all about. So
exactly.
We'll find out Sunday.
No, absolutely. We need to see. And I said it's now time for us to get our heads out of the sand, and get ready for the ride, because it's either going to be, I think it only goes two ways. I think with Zach, it's either going to go really well, or it's going to go really poorly. With him. I think we're going to get our answers if he can play the rest of the season. We get a good chunk of games the rest of the season. I think we're going to have a good idea of what we have in Zach by the time we get to the end of the season, which is at the end of the day, we need to know. As much as I have a lot of faith in his ability, he needs to prove it, and hopefully he does. But we need to know so we can make a good plan for the off season and moving forward as a team, because there's a lot of talent on this team that needs to be unlocked by the QB, and obviously better coaching is another one. But I guess the only thing is, like I said, we need to just. The coaching stuff on the horizon, you're looking at, okay, This is the first time where I've been like, I'm not too happy about where things are down the line potentially. It's the first time on the horizon you can see maybe a potential change there. Not calling for anything right now, but for the first time it's there, and it fills me a bit of dread. Like another regime change. I just want consistency. Can we have a coaching staff and a regime that sticks together for 6 to 8 years, at the very least, if not longer, that would be just so refreshing instead of recycling every 2, 3, 4 years, So I really hope that these guys get out their own way, learn from the mistakes, move forward, and really kind of get around the talent that Joe Douglas has put around on this 53-man roster. So we will wrap it up for this show. We'll be back to preview the Steelers game in our preview pod. We'll be speaking with the UK Steelers guys as well, as we do on our preview pod. And so, David, is anything you got planned for the newsletter this week that you want to say to listeners?
We kind of keep it in structure and during the season. So tomorrow we're going to have a little bit of a stat pack. So we'll have all the stats, everything.
Love the stat pack.
Everyone loves that one. That seems to be a popular edition. So we'll do that, and then we'll get straight onto the Steelers because I think they're there for the taking. And hopefully tomorrow there'll be a little segment about how Zach's returning. He's been cleared by doctors, and we're ready to take off a little bit because we need him. That's the crux of it. We actually need him. Don't know what we're going to get when we get him, but we need him regardless.
Yes, we need his talent. We need his talent.
We need his playmaking.
Yeah,
we need everything. We need to find out what we've got. We keep saying it. We need to find that out.
Absolutely.
I'll be going to look at offensive line prospects for the 2023 NFL draft at some point because I feel like we're going to need it. That and safety. I started looking at safety during the game because I can't keep watching LaMarcus Joyner. But we've got a lot of season left. Don't get too disheartened. We're only 1-2. We're still in the thick of it. A lot of football to be played, a lot of improvements to be made, but I'm confident we've got the talent on the roster. So keep the faith and let's just see if we can get back to 2-2 next week.
Absolutely, 2-2, and everything looks a lot better going into that really big game against Miami in week 5. So, but let's not look past the Steelers. They're a really well coached team. We know they're fantastically coached, even if they're not the team on talent basis that they've been in the previous years. But we're going to their house against a good coaching staff, but they're a beatable team, and we need to be we need to be a lot better than we were yesterday. Otherwise, we're not going to get anything from that. It's going to be another long week again. So let's look forward to that. Let's prepare for that. Enjoy your week. Kind of get over this loss as we prepare for the Steelers, and we'll catch you later in the week.